Today, we have an amazing guest with us. We have civil rights attorney Sue Robinson in the house. And we're excited. She is the founder of the Frontline Law, and she's done amazing work out there in the community. It was almost impossible to get her here with us, but we have her, and we're going to pull from her what it is that we need to know to get our youth involved in the fight for social justice. Sue Robinson, welcome to the Kurline Speaks Show.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for being so patient and awesome.
Awesome, my pleasure. It's amazing, all of the things that you've done out there. I look at your social media all the time. You're all over TV. Again, it was impossible getting you here. First off, I want to say thank you for the work that you've done. Truly, it's really commendable. People are talking about your work. We thank you for the amazing work that you have done.
It's my honor. My honor.
Where we are in the fight for social justice, it would not have been possible without people like you and a whole gang of you guys who we have our eyes on and the amazing things that you do. So today's topic, we want to discuss how important it is for the youth in the fight of social justice, how important it is to have the youth on the front line. I mean, we see things on TV all the time. We see the protesting, we see all of that, but tell us how important it is. How important is the youth in this fight?
Yeah, I think the next generation of civil rights attorneys, of people who are on the front lines, are obviously going to be the youth. I mean, you know, we all hope in each of our lifetimes to push the needle further towards equal rights, but you know, it's a process, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. That's what keeps us all sane. And then what also keeps us fighting are the youth, because we want their future to be better and more equalized, and for them to have more and better opportunities. So I do think it's important for them to be engaged in social justice issues, for them to educate themselves on social justice issues. And I think most recently, something that's available to them that wasn't necessarily fully available to our generation has a lot to do with, you know, researching the origins of a lot of social justice issues and just having a better understanding. And then, of course, talking to their peers, because sometimes, well, there's many paths to a revolution, right? There are different things. There's what the attorneys are doing. There are what the people who are on the streets are doing. There's people doing things in churches. And there's something called allyship, which is, you know, finding people across the aisle that don't necessarily look like us or have the same life experience, but they can also advocate for us, or with us, alongside us, allies. And so I think that the youth, you know, are critical to that, because these are their peers. These are their formative years where they're forming those bonds and those friendships and those connections to basically create allies within their peer groups, so that when they are on the front lines, you know, they're together and they have support and allies. So I think that's a very important part that the youth can play in social justice. I also think that awareness is so important, and because they are on social media and they're so active on social media, I think they have been. I think there's a lot of teenagers and young people on TikTok that are like, hey, you know, this is what's going on. They're making their little videos and they're doing their stuff, and they're like breaking down different issues, voter rights issues and things like that. I think that's important, because yeah, you know, there's a part of social media that is for fun and for hanging out, for talking, and for them to be creative and exchange ideas. But it's a whole other thing for them to use their platforms to actually educate each other on issues and use that awareness to drive change as well.
Right. I love that. And I love the narrative for the TikTok because everyone's on there. I got to make sure my account is up to date, by the way. And that's amazing. And I really do see that youth in action. They're more fierce. This generation is definitely more fierce. And I agree, they're definitely on the path of even greater awareness because we're seeing things every day. But I want to ask, with all of that going on, what are some of the barriers you think that you face that would hinder them from being involved in those movements?
I think some of the barriers have to do with they're operating in a no holds barred environment. Whereas a lot of things that we had to deal with were overt or covert race issues and social justice issues that were covert. So you're trying to explain to someone, why there's a higher rate of incarceration in the Black community, and they're telling you that it's because these people in certain communities are just more criminal, more have inherently more criminality, whereas now they're empowered with more information, so they're like, no, actually there was this thing called the war on drugs that caused that broke up families, that caused these economic issues and led to da 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 da. So it's more out in the open. So because they have that information, they're then, waging a war that everyone is aware of. And I think sometimes because the information is out there, I hear a lot of people say to this generation even more, well, there are no, we don't see color, and obviously you guys are all together, in classes or just in social groups. So there isn't any more racism. There was a Black president, things like that, a Black vice president. So, there aren't these racial issues because look at all these things that are happening that, Black people are able to kind of break through. So I think that's a barrier because optically things look better, but substantively there's still a lot of issues going on that have to be resolved, including, police reimagination and economic reimagination and things like that. So I think a barrier is that the day looks brighter optically. However, there's still a lot of work that needs to be done under the surface.
Definitely. Wow. So it makes me wonder how many, like percentage wise, or what is statistics saying out there? How many young people are really pushing to become lawyers? Especially of color. Are they really interested in wanting to become a lawyer? Or are they too afraid of, okay, we've come a long way, but there's still so much work to be done. This is frustrating. We've been fighting for hundreds of years. There's just nothing happening. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that, obviously there's going to be motivational issues, right? Where it's like, well, we don't understand, what's going on or what's being done, or it's not affecting me personally on my everyday life. And so that's why the awareness is so important. But in terms of young people, young African Americans going to law school, the numbers kind of dip and rise a lot. I mean, I personally am always trying to recruit more African American attorneys and more attorneys specifically. I try to recruit any attorney I can, honestly, to help with civil rights cases. Anybody who has a bar card and has a reasonable good sense, because a lot of times there's cases where they're not fancy and they're not high profile, but they're just as important. Right. And so, we do need all hands on deck, and being an attorney and a civil rights attorney is not necessarily all fun. It's very difficult and hard. And so, who wants to sign up for that, right? But I would say that, the motive is really in understanding and having an awareness of the past in terms of where we were, in terms of from, obviously the initial civil rights movement led by people like Martin Luther King and Fannie Lou Hamer, and understanding that, we're not there, we're now here. So now we're in a new civil rights movement and era that needs to be continued. The work continues every single day. And when you have high profile cases like George Floyd or the killing of Ahmaud Arbery, it reminds us that it's the most important work of our time, that people's lives are being taken behind police using excessive force, and there has to be something done about it. What can we do? What can you do individually, every day to take the movement forward? And so, whether or not you're going to be a lawyer, whether you're going to be a printer, you're going to make signs for protesters, whether you're going to be, a great mom and keep your kids updated and aware of issues, whether you're going to be a coach that coaches basketball and, make sure that all the team players get equal time and, understand each other socially and culturally out on and off the court, whatever it is that your lane is, you do your part, for the revolution in your way every day.
I like that. You really gave us some action steps, whether it's just creating a sign, do your part, because we do all play a part in that movement. I love it. And of course, I'm still very upset, and a lot of us are still very upset at most of those killings that have happened. It's unfortunate, but we want to focus on the highlights that we are getting somewhere. We've come a long way, and we have people like you who just nonstop. I don't know, but I want to ask this outside of everything. How do you practice self-care? Because you do it all. The slogan is, you're not just a lawyer on TV, but you're a lawyer in real life, and you really are.
Right.
All over the place, we know that advocacy is such a big deal, and you're always recruiting, like you said, and it never ends. So thank you. But how do you practice, just for some motivation and some encouragement for the youth that are upcoming and wanting to be attorneys and wanting to lead the protests and be advocates for other social justice issues? How do we balance time? How do you balance time? What's your advice to them to get motivated?
Yeah, I'm excited about this question in of itself, that I think speaks to the progress. I think part of oppression and people who oppress other people is causing them never to be able to rest. Because if you're unable to rest, you're always in survival mode. Okay, so you're never able to actually thrive, because you're constantly moving and moving and moving and battling and battling and battling. And that's when you actually resting and being present in your life outside of being a part of the revolution and doing your part every day actually becomes almost a revolutionary act, because you're saying, like Maxine says, I'm going to reclaim my time, which she was talking about her time to speak, but looking at more existentially, reclaiming your time in the sense that, yes, we have all this work to do. Yes, we need to organize. Yes, we need to protest. Yes, we need to work on legislation. We have to work on, supporting families who have lost loved ones at the most deadliest police culture, in history. We do have to do all those things, but we do have to do self-care, because you can't be a soldier in a war and never take rest. And you can't give your best. You can't give your best. So me personally, my self-care, everybody always makes fun of me because I always say my hobbies are, hanging out with my kids. My hobby is hanging out with my kids. But they're obviously a part of my self-care. A huge thing that I've incorporated into my self-care is 2 days a month of, and that's a full, well, it's more like 36 hours of kind of disconnecting or having a conversation like this about my own personal internal well-being and health, even if it's not necessarily going somewhere or being in a spa or actually having opportunity to be away, just to even have a conversation with other civil rights attorneys, other practitioners, family members, to kind of get things out in the open, because, you know, we are dealing with very hard situations constantly. And, you know, as a lawyer in something like that, the requirement is you are to maintain a certain sense of peace, a certain sense of calm. But at the end of the day, we're not robots, right? We're dealing with death, we're dealing with funerals. Yeah, we're dealing with hard situations as many times as, you know, people in the public have had to view certain videos, certain footage. Like, we're doing that every day for multiple cases, you know, across the country. So you do have to kind of take that time to take that step back and rest and say, you know what, in the next 24 hours, anything could happen.
Right.
Because it's, you know, when Philando Castile happened and Alston Sterling happened, that was within a 24-hour time frame. I remember going to bed upset about something, and then waking up and having a brand new case. And so for months after that, I didn't sleep well, because I was like, okay, can we go to sleep?
Right.
Can we go to sleep? Or is there going to be a new case in the morning? Which the idea, like I said, is when you recognize and don't glamorize overworking yourself. Okay, taking that time and carving it out, as hard as it may be, to take a step back. And when you do that, honestly, what I found is that, you know, me, like, even posting about my kids or hanging out with my kids, or me just doing whatever I'm doing that's not related to work, I've gotten so much, like, so many people say to me, like, oh man, like, that inspired me to, you know, go get a massage, or just go spend some time with my friends, or, you know, do something to kind of set the tone so that you're refreshed when it's time for you to work. And I absolutely believe that, you know, not resting all the time. If you get tired, you have to rest. You have to rest. You don't quit. Yeah.
I like that. Don't quit. Don't throw in the towel. Don't give it up altogether. Just take the process. And I'm really glad to hear you talk about that and see how important it is, because the re-traumatization is real. And so we know that the families are going through it, the communities are going through it. We're all seeing the videos every day of certain things happening or hearing, but no one has really taken time to say, but the attorneys, they're viewing the videos more than we are. And so I'm really happy to hear that you take time for self-care. I've seen your girls, they're amazing. And sometimes I'm like pretending I'm playing with them, but you know, but it's fun because it's good to see you laugh, and it's good to see that you're taking care of your soul and who you are as an individual. So thank you so much. One last thing to just share with us. What are your final words for the next generation coming up, for the youth of today? What are your final words in about 10 seconds for them, Sue?
Yeah, I think that this is absolutely the most important work of our time. It's the most important work of our time, and it's because it's for them, for their generation. And so be active, be involved, be aware, you know, work on building allyship and bringing awareness to these issues, and stay educated, know your rights. Know your rights.
So basically what she said is stay woke, okay? Know your rights. All right, thank you so much. We were so glad to have you on here. We're looking forward to talking to you again. We're gonna stay connected on your page again. She is a lawyer in real life, not just on TV. Sue Ann Robinson, thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing all those precious gems with us. And thank you guys for watching the Kurline Speaks show. Until then, see you in the next video. Have a good one.
Thank you, man. Thank you for using your platform for good. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.
I am so excited because we have great things in store. Thank you for sharing in Kurline Speaks. If you have not subscribed, this is your chance to do so. Hit on that word, subscribe, and let me see you in the next video. Kurline Speaks love you. Bye now.